welcome to Traveling Inside Out. This is Alina, your host. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the podcast that explores the world within and out. And thank you for subscribing to Traveling Inside Out. It's 8:22 and we're recording this on Halloween Day. Good morning, Andra.
Good morning to you. It's 2:23 p.m. in Romania. And yes, it is on Halloween Day or Diwali for the
Yeah,
Indian listeners, if we have any. Or in Romania, we don't have it yet. It's actually tomorrow, like you already know, but it's I guess, the Day of Lights, we could say it, when it's still kind of like the Day of the Dead. So it still has something to do with the spirits and lights and everything else. So, yeah, special day.
yeah, it's a lot happening. We will talk about that in a second, but I don't want to talk about Halloween because we don't necessarily celebrate Halloween, but I'm just going to briefly ask you, have you ever done anything for Halloween, either going to a party, dress up, or anything at all in your 30 and a little bit years of life?
I like the little bit part. Um, from now on, that's how that's how I will start. I will stick to 30 and a little bit. I have actually. I kind of like the whole Halloween dress up thing. I'm not a sucker for like horror stories and everything, but I was never able to watch horror films. I watched a few and I was kind of scarred for life, and I was like, "Yep, that's not. I can't. That's not my thing." And I don't. Yeah, so I don't necessarily like that part of the holiday, but I do like the dress up and the costume parties and all. And I did go to Halloween parties, I think 2 or 3 times. One was I was in high school and I dressed up like some sort of a witch, and I was trying my best to, look ugly. And when I got there, everybody else was like, sexy cat, sexy devil girl, and I was like, "Oh, okay, so this is how you're supposed to do Halloween." And then one more time in college, I think I went to a bar that was organizing a Halloween party, and then I had some like cat ears, and I can't remember something else. I was not the Wicked Witch anymore. But other than that, not so much. Oh no, I did go to a Halloween party in Korea when I was in Seoul, because there were a lot of Americans. A lot of bars had Halloween parties, so I went with a couple of friends. It was fun. It was a lot of fun to actually see all the other people that were really putting a lot of effort into dressing up. So that I did like that one. Yeah.
I I've only went to two Halloween parties when I was living in Iceland, and we went from the like the company that I was working with for, not with, for. Um, and that would be all. I remember I did go once in Bucharest when I moved to Bucharest. It was, I went to work on a Saturday morning, and the party was a Saturday evening,
Oh,
and I had nothing, and so I went dressed as myself. And when everybody was asking me, I was like, I am a Transylvanian. Ardeleancă, more or less. I'm slow, so I'm not doing shit. But I didn't know any of my colleagues. I didn't, so I only went there. I had a drink and then I left because I'm also very awkward and but yeah, more often than not, I was against Halloween because I was like, it's just something that we're taking from others and it's not ours and whatevs.
yeah.
So yeah, that's where I was standing. But the last 2 years for Halloween, there is a house close, kind of like half an hour walk from where we live, that is going crazily, like insane with decorations. They have like animatronic characters
Wow.
and things like that. And I have
Wow.
posted on my YouTube page. I posted shorts from previous years, and so we're planning to go today as well, somewhere around sunset time. And there's also like a lot of kids around and stuff like that. So that's the Halloween that nobody comes here to ask for candy.
I
So
was going
that's the only,
to say,
nobody, no, they're not doing that to our building. So we're going to just go for a walk, see the house, see if they did anything different this year or they kept it literally the same, the same, the same, and then come back. So that's the thing. But before we get into talking about what the day that you just mentioned means for Romania or in Romania, let's give our suggestions for the month. Since I have two, I'm gonna start with another movie that my husband worked for, and
woohoo, shout out to Brian.
it's now in theaters. And so I don't know if it's available in Romania, but for sure it's available in United States. The movie also, I think it had the premiere either it was Toronto Film Festival or Sundance Film Festival, one of these. And I think it was not shown at Cannes, but it got bought by a marketing company or something like that at Cannes. So it's like a whole thing going on.
Okay, very
The
nice.
director is called Titus Kaphar, which I don't know exactly how to say his last name. But the subject of the movie is a black artist on the path to success is derailed by an unexpected visit from his estranged father, a recovering addict desperate to reconcile. So he is actually talking about his whole life, about his relationship with his dad. And so I have not watched the movie quite yet. We were supposed to watch it 1 week ago, and then the plans didn't line up. We got overwhelmed with other things, so we weren't able to watch it. I'm just recommending it because I think I've seen some of the paintings and some of the paintings of the artist, and they are just so in your face and like hitting you with the message and or um like making you think it's there's no way you see his art and you're not like you're gonna think about things. And I
Okay,
did get to talk with him one of the days on when they were on set. Brian surprised me with like, if you want you can talk with like the director was like he's okay to talk with you for a little bit, and I was like, oh my god, because as soon as I saw his art I was like, I'm an immediate fan. I'm like, I
well,
didn't
that's nice.
even know of him. Yeah, I was like, I didn't even know of him, gonna be honest. How would I? Because I don't necessarily like go to museums or like I'm interested in things like that. But like, I was like, I'm
Right.
immediately a fan. So exhibiting forgiveness is the name of the movie.
Okay. I will have to search for maybe it will be available on some streaming platforms outside of the US as well, but it sounds super interesting. Because of the time we're at right now, I was thinking, I actually wanted to watch some maybe Halloween themed movies, maybe some Dia de los Muertos animations. Of course, I watched Coco like probably most of the people on the planet. And I wanted to find something similar to it. And I haven't watched it yet, but I'm hopefully watching it tonight or tomorrow, latest. And it's called The Book of Life. Maybe you've heard of it. It has pretty good ratings on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, which is not very often. And it's about apparently young man who has to pursue the love of his life, and he's caught between realms, and it has to do with the realm of the dead, and the spirits as well. And what attracted me to it is that the producer is Guillermo del Toro, and I'm a fan of his work. So I'm actually quite excited to watch it. So yeah,
So I
if you're
feel like
looking
I've heard of it. I'm just not. I can't place it.
possible, because it's kind of old. It's like 10 years old
Yeah,
now. This
yeah. I
one,
just
and apparently there's like a sequel either coming out this year or in the works or something like that. So I haven't seen it before, but I was thinking like, oh, I would watch something like Coco, but I watched that already, so I don't want to necessarily watch it again right now. But I
Okay.
do also watch every for a few years now, almost every year, I watch The Nightmare Before Christmas on
Of
Christmas
course.
Day.
Oh, really? So you're saying that it's a Christmas movie, not a Halloween movie?
That's the thing, yeah, for me, I
I
feel more
know.
like that's Christmas, because
Christmas movie.
we were talking about it, last night with my boyfriend, and we are like, "Yeah, but for me, I kinda watch that on Christmas," and he was like, "Yeah, me too." So, we're looking for something else.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, it sounds familiar. I cannot place it right now in my jumble overhead, but maybe I do know it. So I will have to check it afterwards. I was telling you, whenever there's a movie that my husband worked on that is coming out, I always kind of recommend it. So that's
Of
always the
course.
bonus. That's always the bonus. But my recommendation for this month, I don't know if you've ever heard of Anderson Cooper. He's
Yes.
yes, so he has a CNN, and I'm here not to endorse CNN per se. Not necessarily CNN, even though it's probably under the sigil of CNN. What I'm about to recommend, but Anderson Cooper has an amazing podcast that is called All There Is, and I'm going to read the description of the podcast, which I truly think, and especially because you and I have talked about this subject a little bit, like briefly mentioned on our podcast. I think you would probably, I don't know that I can say enjoy, but probably need maybe is not the correct word either. But it will be something that it might help you.
Okay.
So, uh, grief can feel so lonely, but talking about it and listening to others share their grief experiences helps. Now they are at 3 seasons in, and so Anderson Cooper continues his deeply personal exploration of grief in all its complexities. In moving and honest discussions, he learns from others who've experienced life altering losses. All there is with Anderson Cooper is about the people we lose, the people left behind, and how we can live on with loss and with love.
No, that
So,
sounds very nice.
um, he lost one of his parents, and in a few years back, and with that, if I'm not mistaken. With that, he realized that even though we are all going through grief and we are all going through someone in our life passing, it's very rarely that we commonly talk about it unless you go to therapy and to groups that are helping you with that. There's not, even though, so we should all be connected by this, but we are not that much. So
Yeah.
he's talking with people, and obviously that he's going to talk with people that we like, for example, Whoopi Goldberg, and like he has obviously famous names that are joining the conversation, but you will hear them in a way that you haven't heard them before.
Hmm.
Because usually most of them are performers in one way or another, and
Yeah.
so that's when they put a mask on, I would say. And then when they talk about their actually personal life and whoever they lost in their life, um, I think it's a really great podcast. And I'm not a fan of CNN, and I'm not a fan of his per se, but I think what he's doing and what he's trying to create with this podcast, it's something really beautiful.
That sounds actually very warm and very, very touching somehow.
So I highly recommend, because we are all going through some sort of losses.
Mm.
Um, Sooner or later, it doesn't. It's not like I'm. It's
It's
sooner or
inevitable
later.
for sure.
Yes, yes. Okay, so that being said, kind of the best transition from
Yeah,
this. Okay, so you said that it's called kind of the Day of Lights or something like that,
I
but
would say so, yeah.
I'm also knowing it as Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead, yeah. I
And
guess in
I also know it. I know you're saying like Luminatie,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, like
Once again, I don't know if this is regional thing.
probably, as I was gonna mention that it probably in our region we say that more than the Day of the Dead, but it's also, yeah, people do say it is also commonly known as the Day of the Dead, and that is November 1st.
November 1st. Yes, that's when we celebrate. So, um, I also don't know if I think it's completely different. Like where my mom lives right now, which is in the southeast of the country, they don't have the same things happening at the cemetery. So let's start with the beginning. I have to mention from the very start that I've only been to the cemetery on that day once in my life, and that was back in 2019 when I was still back in Romania. And it was, I did not expect to see so much happening. Like I knew of it, but I didn't realize how much is happening. Uh, it was just mind blowing for me. I was like, this, I would have loved to go all the time because it's in a way. Okay, so side note, I don't feel cemetery. I don't find cemeteries disturbing. I love going to cemeteries, not necessarily at night, but I love going to cemeteries whenever I travel as well because I like to see how people are, like, what do they do with the loved ones that passed away? How do they, the way that, because it's so different when you travel to other countries and you see how the grave is different from one culture to another and
Mhm,
so on. It's quite, and it's also religion based, so it's quite fascinating for me. But also it just happens that in some countries it also kind of looks like a park, but it's not a park that everybody's in. So usually I also use it as a place where I can be a bit in nature and collect my thoughts before I go out again in the noisy whatever traveling city or whatever area I'm in. So
mhm.
I just wanted to do this side note, that I don't find cemeteries disturbing to begin with. Because if you do, then it's gonna be challenging to go at night or like around
Right.
sunset or like, you know what I'm saying? So that's number one. So that's what I'm saying. Like I grew up going to the cemetery just because when I was coming in the summer in Desh. We would just go and hang out, and not like to be kids and do mischievous things. Like no, there were like some walnut trees around there, like like see
It
are
was
the
like
walnut trees there finished? Like are they? Can we get some walnuts? Like whatever. Um, okay, so I have to say that I didn't fully understand. Like I had to truly Google and try to understand because since I've never been, nobody from my family truly told me, so I don't have the, oh, my grandma told me this and that, or like my parent, I have none of that. So then this is my first question to you. Outside of you going from your own, do you have any relations in your parents or your grandparents or anyone like that going with them?
Yes, when I was younger, when I was a kid, I used to go with my family to the cemetery, for November 1st. And it was, yeah, like a lot was happening there. I was going with my parents, my grandmother, some uncles would be there, maybe some like, cousins, whatever, distant cousins and relatives, because they were all in the same day. And it was quite nice because, yeah, the whole cemetery was filled with flowers, with lights. People would light candles. Some people would bring cakes and sweets. And, because I was a kid, I would always get things from everybody. Um, it was a day of remembrance, but also like socializing, also meeting other people and so on. And for me, what was interesting is that in the place where we used to live, when I was a kid, um, it was my father's side of the family was there, and a lot of in the cemetery, in the main cemetery there. Um, we had, his side of the family buried, and it was his grandparents, his father, so my grandfather from his side that I had never met because he died a few months before I was born. So, whenever we would go there, I would sometimes hear stories about these people that I had never met, but I was like kind of, close to, because obviously, they were like immediate family. Um, so it was, yeah, like it was interesting. And my dad would show me, oh, in that grave I have, like his little baby brother who died as an infant as well. And so I would hear stories about our family, so not so much about the day itself, but family stories and history.
Okay. That being said, I realized let's start with the beginning and say to the people what actually is. So I'm going to let you explain what actually is, like, what does it mean this day? What are we actually celebrating? Or just let's start with the
Okay.
actual
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so what do we do on November 1st?
Mhm.
Both, I mean, I'm not sure if all religions in Romania, whatever, all like, but
So
definitely.
let's just mention that I don't know how it is right now, but growing up, I knew that the religion in Romania it's 90 something percent Orthodox.
Right.
So the majority of us are like this. However, you are not.
I am not, and a lot of people aren't. And pretty recently, I found out that, like, yeah, some other friends were in the same situation, that, our families, they were traditionally Greek Catholic. And I know a lot of people don't know about what that is. It's like a branch of Catholicism that is somewhat closer to Orthodox traditions. It's a complicated thing. But anyway, so during the communist times up until 1989, the only religion that was tolerated in Romania was Orthodox. So we are all baptized as Orthodox, even myself, even these friends of mine, because there was no like the Greek Catholic religions, they had no right to have a church, so all the churches were kind of given to the Orthodox practitioners and so on. So that's the thing. Like, in officially, we were all baptized as Christian, as Orthodox Christians, but our families traditionally, like I have an uncle who studied in the Vatican. So obviously, like, he's definitely in the Catholic world, but during communist times he wasn't allowed to, and so on, to practice. So, but anyway, a lot of the during the year, a lot of the holidays are not quite at the same date. Like Easter is not the same for the Orthodox and the Catholics and others. But November 1st is generally acknowledged as the Day of the Dead by both Orthodox and the Catholics. So
Yes.
that's the thing. Like, we would all go to the same cemetery, even if
Hmm.
you were Orthodox or Catholic. I think there were some like small ceremonies, like the priests would come, and they were coming in the same time just so they don't like disturb each other, right? One would come at like 3 p.m. and the other one would come at like 4 p.m. to have their little, like, I guess, a small mass to
Hmm.
commemorate the departed. And then the people would just go and like put flowers on the graves, light candles for the deceased, and, like I said, maybe give away some food, in their name, and so on. But the reason why I said it's also called like the Day of Lights, it's because, yeah, in Romanian we have this word that you already mentioned, luminație, which kind of means it's the day when, yeah, like all the cemeteries are getting lit up, basically, because they're getting filled with candles, basically, yeah, for the souls of the dead. So that's what happens. People go to the cemetery maybe of the week before, to clean up, to plant some flowers, to yeah, just make everything nice and clean. And then for November 1st, they go um, to give these offerings, and to, yeah, really just remember the people that they lost, I guess.
Yeah. So it's a way that we are. Um, Yeah, I love the fact that how you mentioned that the people are coming together. However, I feel like, at least in the town where I live, there are cemeteries that are separate. The Orthodox cemeteries are separated from the Catholic
In bigger
ones.
cities,
So
probably.
there, and I know also in the Jewish ones are separated as well. So, and we didn't
Yeah.
have any Muslims or stuff like that, or any other. That's basically the main, that, as far as I know, are, really like a bigger percentage would be Jewish, would be Orthodox and non-Catholics. Okay, so it usually happens at night. I don't know why. So you did say that people bring candles, and some of them. So when we mention candles, we just don't mean that somebody just brings one candle that they hold and then that's it. Sometimes they have candles all around the grave, and I've seen, for example, candles being placed in the shape of a cross on
Mm.
the which again I don't know, is that a thing with Catholics as well? I'm guessing, right? Like the
Yeah,
cross
yeah,
is still the cross. Yeah.
yeah.
So there's all sort of, like, if you like candles in the night and again you don't like the cemetery but you like candles in the night and the lights and all that, it looks really cool, it looks really pretty.
It
Now,
really does. It really
w-
does.
one thing that you mentioned already, and it's something that I had zero, when I'm telling you that I had zero idea about this, I don't just, like, I really truly had no clue that this is a thing. Is you said that people were bringing some sweets or things like that, and as a kid you would receive that. So, as I said, my first time ever going was 2019, which I was like a full fledged adult, unfortunately for me, but that's reality. So, I went there and it almost seemed a little bit like a food market, like a fair, because
Yeah.
like there were things that you can buy before, like in the entry
Mhm.
of the cemetery. There were people who were selling. Um, Help me with the English word, turta dulce,
Gingerbread.
gingerbread, but in the, because it's for gift. And this is where I'm like, I draw the line at this. I feel like this is where the holiday and celebration goes away from us. Because imagine I was in the cemetery. Mind you, this is the cemetery, right? Right. They were selling ginger, like sweet gingerbread, kind of like on a stick in the shape of minions.
Minions? Okay, I was expecting in the shape of skulls or something.
No,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, fine. But, and that's where it gets a little bit similar with Halloween, is that kids would go from one person to another and just saying, I think they were just saying something like "rest in peace to your dead one" or
Right, yeah,
something,
yeah.
something like that, and they would get a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, oh, so is this the Halloween that I haven't heard about before? Because I didn't know that things you can. Obviously, if you hear the, let's not forget that I am in Brooklyn. So there was a, I don't know if it was a police car or whatever that just passed.
I
Uh,
did not hear it, so
I did not know that there's candy that to be given. I did not know that. And now I don't understand. I mean, because we didn't have anyone dead, like anyone passed in that cemetery. So it kind of makes sense that we
yeah.
didn't go because there was nobody that we can attend to. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, until way later. But I didn't know. And so I'm envious on you because it's not like as a kid, I'm imagining I'm going there for the candy. But I'm just saying, I missed out on this fully, 100% missed out completely
Yeah,
on
it's
this
also
thing that we had.
it's also because I grew up in like a small town, like a little countryside basically. So in the countryside, it's a bit different. Yeah, like everybody knows kind of everybody. It's not just relatives. It was also like neighbors, and if we were all around there, like putting the flowers and everything, the people that were right next to us, yeah, of course, everybody would say something about your deceased ones, and if they had some cake and like have some, it's it's given as an offering in the memory of the dead ones. So everybody had something to offer, from like sweet bread to homemade cakes to, yeah, maybe some sweets. So it was, yeah, it's just I feel like it's because it was in the countryside.
What I used to love, I wrote an article on my website, but I can't find it right now. So what happened is since 2000, and I'm not even just saying that. Can you tell that I have ADHD? Since 2018, I changed my website, as in not the design of the website, but the host, at least 4 or 5 times. So
Almost once a year.
granted, some of I still have like I think 50 drafts that I haven't republished because I had to re-add the pictures, and they because they were, I was exporting and importing from from the other da, 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 and then I still have I think around 50
Mhm.
drafts that I have not published, and you know they were published back in 2019. Does it matter that I've been to a castle in 2020? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or 2021 right now? I don't even know that the price is the same. So, whatever.
Right.
But uh, my point is that I did write an article about that experience back in 2019, and I couldn't find it before recording the thing, but I remember one of the things that I loved outside of the understanding that kids are having a good time and the lights and all that. I loved me some eavesdropping. I
Yeah.
was
Right.
listening to people
Oh, I
talking.
remember that. You also wrote about it. I think you posted about it on Facebook as well, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
wrote about because there was like two ladies that they were talking about. It was fascinating. I love me hearing some cemetery like grave
Cemetery
drama. I
gossip.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I love it so much. So, did you notice any of these in your going? Like people talking about all sort of
Mhm.
grievances. I would call them. I would say.
Right. No, I mean, not so much that I would eavesdrop, but I do know that, like people from my family had some sort of like little beef with people from other families, and so they were trying to like kind of avoid that part of the cemetery and just like go this path so we don't meet those people because we have to be civil with them and we don't feel like it. So that's, it was mostly that, yeah, that kind of a thing.
And so another thing that you mentioned, and let's try and get more into it, is about the priest who. This is something again. I was at some point I was like literally following the priest through the cemetery. I was trying to understand what's the deal with the priest. So I was literally like through three tombstones like behind him, but I was like taka taka following him, going that, going left. I'm going left. Um, it's literally what happened. I'm not like. Um, as it turns out, they have maybe pre-booked by some people to come to their the love, like the grave of the loved ones. So then they have this small mass in which they're
Hmm.
saying a few words and things like that. And granted, this is just it's not. So I said that it happens. It starts like around sunset, but it's not going until like 1 a.m. People are
No.
not in the cemetery for like hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
It's just like like 1 hour, 2 hours, or whatever, right? So it's not like goes. So if you go into a cemetery that has hundreds of freaking tombs, you're gonna have to kind of be pre-booked, I guess, if you wanna have this mass. And I know
Maybe.
that there was this lady that was trying to be like, "Can you ask?" And he's like, "Okay, I will have to go first there and there, and then if I have time, I'm gonna come back to you." And this was just like it's it's so in a way I understand, but in a way I truly don't understand because in my opinion is I I don't want to get into my whole opinion about church in general, but in my opinion, they should have all of them priests in this day and be like, "Hey, you take this side, you take this side." You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, how many? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, divide and conquer, man. Not just be like one or two for hundreds of people
I
needing a
guess
mass
it's,
or stuff like that.
I don't know actually how it's like in bigger cities, but I would assume that they are based on how many, like, because you don't just go to any priest in the city. You have your own, like, I don't know, the one that's at the church where you live that you're kind of assigned to. I have no idea. I thought that's how it is.
That's a good point. I don't know. But then I guess it also depends like who's, because then that's difficult, right? Because then who's buried where? If there are in a
Right.
town, in a city, there's more than one cemetery.
True.
So then what? You know what I mean? Because yeah, you're right. What if he had another cemetery that he had to go to?
Yeah, that's true. And
Do you know what I
then you
mean?
have
Like it's a city. Like people die and they
to go,
bought
yeah.
that place to the grave 10,
Yeah,
20, 50 years ago or whatever. That's really like I didn't even think about that until you just said it just now. But now
that
I'm
is
like, yeah, I don't know how that works.
well, in the countryside and in the cemetery that I used to go to, like I said, the priests would come and, the Orthodox priest would just have a mass for everybody who was like an Orthodox Christian that was buried there, and then the Catholic would do the same, and that like everybody was covered at once. So
But
that's
at the same time, if I'm putting myself in the priest's shoes, I'm going to say to the person, but you can also come during the whole year at the church.
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I don't need to be in the cemetery by the grave. And I can, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I'm looking from the other perspective, like, okay, but also you can always come. And we do have this thing in which you light a candle. In the Orthodox Church, what I've noticed is like you can light a candle for the people who passed away, but you can also light a candle for people who are still alive, which I haven't seen that in the general Catholic churches. It's just one place where you go and light a candle, and that's it. It's not for the dead, for the whatever
Yeah.
you have in your, but it's literally two different places. And so I have to mention one time.
Uh,
I don't. Can you still hear me?
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Um, I don't. I told you before that I used to go to church just a few times during summer when I was at my grandparents' place, but I didn't. As a coincidence, it's the same town that I'm talking about. But I haven't like regularly going to church and things like that. So I think I went by the church for maybe a Easter or something like that as a kid, and I wanted to light a candle. But I didn't know that I had to bring my own candle, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm about to say?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you told me the story.
And what I did was I wanted to light a candle for I had uncle and aunt that passed away. And I wanted to do thing and I took two candles from the alive people, like from the alive, and I put them in the area for the people who passed away. That's what my child brain realized that I can do. Like I was like, oh, I don't know where. Wait, the candle. I don't have the candle, so I'm gonna take it from here and put it here, and that's my candle thingy. Do you think it worked, or,
No,
or am I gonna go to hell for this?
it's like that's like blasphemy right there. No,
Oh boy, yes,
you
I
went
did do
against
that.
the rules.
I did do that. Okay, another thing
The
that yes. Go ahead.
yeah, because like before you mentioned the story, I wanted to say something, and I quickly searched for the superstitions for Day of the Dead, and that why is it so important, that you do it on November 1st or the Day of the Dead and not just any day in church. Apparently, and this is probably not I don't even know if it's a Christian thing or just like a superstition, like a pagan pre-Christian whatever, but people say that on this day the souls of the dead come back to earth and kind of visit, and that's why they're here, and we're like making these offerings of light and food and everything else for them. And there is one thing that I forgot to mention. So I have some relatives in like the central part of like close to Cluj, in that part of the Transylvania, and what they consider, I mean, sure, they go to the cemetery on November 1st, but what they consider the true Day of the Dead, when they actually go to light up candles at the graves, is on Easter Day, because for them, the second day of Easter after resurrection, that's when you're supposed to light up candles. I don't actually know where that's coming from. I know it's kind of like a small regional thing there. Um, but that is the what they call uh, the Day of Lights, basically, for them. So I don't actually know where that's coming from.
I'm trying to think because I know my mom, in my mom regions, and that's not the region that you just mentioned. But I know that they have this thing for Easter when they do, like, they give, I don't know what's the name for it. I'm trying to think if it's for Easter or is for um, Pentecost, or however it's called. The thing after the hmm, when it goes back to heaven.
Oh, with Suntide, I think, or something.
Okay, so that thing. I know that she sometimes she gives, like, she makes small packages, and she basically just gives something in the name of the people who have passed away in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that that's a thing that she does, and I don't know that she's doing so much on November 1st, but I know that it's around Easter. So it's either because she has like in different, it's like for Easter and then afterwards. That's why I'm saying I don't remember exactly if it's for how we call it in Romanian, înălțare, but she is giving like some food or some whatever, something like that in the name of the people who have passed. So it's not exactly what you were saying, but that's the only thing that I can
Hmm.
connect to what you were
Yeah.
saying, is that my mom does that. Um, yeah.
It probably is like there's several days of like commemorating the dead, but definitely, I guess officially everybody knows that November 1st, or the evening of November 1st as being the celebration.
So I'm curious because that's kind of also the reason for Halloween, you know. And I know that Halloween now it's very commercialized and all that, but as far as I remember, and I hope I'm not wrong, I feel like it comes from like
Like the All Hallows Eve, All Saints.
yeah, but doesn't it come from like a region in the UK, like the Gales or whatever? That's what I remember that it was from, and then it was brought wherever. So what I'm trying to say is that I do think that it's like this superstition slash belief or whatever. I think it's before religion took over, and it was probably adopted in
It's
one way or another.
possible. Yeah, I don't exactly know where it started.
Hmm. Hmm. So now, obviously, from this, I have to ask you. I've seen actually a really great joke, and I'm going to tell you the joke in a second because I have to find the joke. But do you, very obviously, I'm going to have to ask now, do you believe in ghosts?
Um, no. I had moments when I was wondering, um, and I don't, they're like it's a huge topic, what happens after death and all, but I don't think we get lost in between anything. I feel like there's things that happen, but I somehow have the feeling that you can't get lost in between. Like it's like, everything in nature just happens the way it happens. Like a river flows, a river doesn't just get lost. Oh, like the water's just like disappearing now, but it's still there. Like I don't know. Somehow it feels like, if you die, you die. Things happen, whatever happens afterwards just happens naturally. You don't just like get stuck in some. I know that in Catholicism there's the idea of purgatory, which is like a transition thing, but I don't necessarily think that. ghosts in that sense of like souls who are lost and are just stuck here in between realms. I don't I don't necessarily relate to that.
But what
That
if
being
that
said, I'm
okay.
super scared of like ghost stories. So if you try I want yeah, I that's exactly who I am. So one time I was driving by with some friends in an area that I didn't know, and somebody was like, "Oh, see that building over there in the far back? Like, we shouldn't drive too close to it because like some people said that they heard noises," and that was enough for me. I was like, "Let's get the hell out of here right now! Like, don't even like just accelerate. Don't even think about anything else." So yeah, like I don't when I
I
put
see.
things rationally, I'm like, yeah, I don't
This
really believe
is
that.
I think there was a joke, and I think, it was a joke, and then I kind of transformed it, in my living to Iceland. So I think the joke was something like, during day I don't believe in ghosts. At night I'm a little bit more, you know. Like,
Skeptic.
so
Yeah,
I
no, that's
said, so I said before living in Iceland, I didn't believe in any other entities. Experiencing winter in Iceland, I'm starting to be a bit more open.
yeah.
So the joke is somebody posted a poll on the almighty internet, and the question was, which one is harder to believe in today's world? And so you had two options to choose from. Option number one, a ghost living in your house. Option number two, a raise higher than inflation. And it's like 7% voted a ghost living in your house. Which one is harder to believe? A raise higher than inflation. Way
Absolutely.
harder to believe than a
Yeah,
ghost
no, yeah,
living in
yeah.
your house.
Yep,
um, but
that's
yeah,
exactly how it
what,
was.
let's go back to what you said in the beginning, that you don't like horror films and thing and you were literally just saying now a story.
Yeah.
Um, are there any, like, any kind you don't like? Because I can tell you, for me, I don't like to see horror movies then where I get to see like a lot of blood and cuts and things like that. That really bothers me. But I like me a suspense horror, like Blair Witch Project, I guess. That's a little bit more like you don't know what's there, but there is something there, or like, movies more like that. I like more, or like I mean, Shining. You kind of say like spooky things that happen, but you
Mhm.
don't really know what's actually happening, and you don't, I like that. Like that one I enjoy, but I don't enjoy the
Gory.
bloodiness of it all, and yeah, like all the gore and all of the mm, and so I'm curious for you, is any kind that you might enjoy a little bit? The
Uh,
thrill of it, or like none of it. All of them stay away.
I mean, I definitely don't. I cannot watch like you know, if I watch something that has um ghosts or supernatural or you know any kind of horror that's I can't really like I have nightmares and I won't fall asleep because if I hear any squeaking in the furniture in the house, I will be like, that thing from the movie just came into my house. I never watched the Ring, for example, but I imagine it would do that to me.
What? Oh no!
But I did
Ow.
watch the old Poltergeist movies when I was like a teenager with my mom, and we watched it at like 3 p.m. during the day on a summer day, and I was fine. Um, I mean, I don't know if you can say that like Alien is horror movies, but like with that one, I have no problem. Actually, like I liked Alien a lot. Anything that's far enough from the world that I live in, you know, like Alien, Predator, whatever, all of these like monster kind of things, I don't mind those. But these like devilish creatures, humans that do like really, really evil things, those ones actually like scar me and I can't watch those. And one thing that I have to say, because I'm a film major, it's confession time now. One time, we had
Confession time with Andra.
confession time. I yes. We had to write an essay, like a film review, right? And there was a big bowl, and there were little pieces of paper that the professor had written names of different movies on, like pretty classic movies, and we each had to like pick one. You didn't know what it was, and to just write an essay for the following week for that, like a yeah, film critique basically.
Mhm.
And of course, out of all the goddamn movies in there, the one that I got was the only horror film, and it was Freddy versus like some the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, come on, Andra.
And I was like, "Oh god, can I just pick another one, please?" And he was like,
Nope.
"No, you're a film major. You can't have this,
Nope.
like,
You
you
don't
have."
get to choose. Nope.
Yeah, like, it's a
I'm sorry, but
professional.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like your teacher in general, but I agree with that statement for sure.
Like, I can't I get it, but for me, it was like, "Oh, can I please just pick anything else?" It was the only horror film in that fucking bowl, and I got it. And I was like, "Oh god, okay, like, do I really like, can I pick anything else, please?" And he was like, "No, I mean, you're a professional, you have to act like a professional, just watch it from the professional point of view." And I was like, "Fine, okay." I did not watch it. I read, I think I read, like, 4 or 5 movie reviews for that one. I watched the trailer for the new one. I watched the trailer for the old one. I watched some like small pieces on YouTube that were about, like, oh, this scene is classic, whatever. I even wrote a comparison between the remake and the old film. And I was like, you know what? I did my homework. And the next time I went, I gave an essay, and he was like, "So did you watch it?" And I was like, "Yes, I watched them both." And he was like, "Good." And I was like, "No, I did not." I didn't tell him that, but I was like, I pretended because I couldn't have it any other way. Um, I was not going to watch Nightmare on Elm Street and watch it twice. So yeah, I faked it. And I got a good grade because I faked it right. And I can understand, sure, after that assignment, I can understand why it was such a classic and everything, but still not for me. I was like, I'm not going to watch this.
I have to be honest, I haven't watched it until I watched a film festival that I used to work for. And then I went 1 year and I didn't work. And then I finally had the time to watch
So
whatever I
what?
wanted to and do whatever I wanted to do. And so this is an argument that I'm going to give you. If you ever want, I know you don't want to, but I'm just saying, if you would want to consider, maybe your boyfriend likes horror movies, I would highly recommend to go to a film festival because no matter how serious the shit is, everybody's laughing.
That is right. That makes sense.
Because being together with other people, and especially since it's a film festival that is focused on horror and fantasy kind of movies,
Hmm.
it's so now. Granted, I don't know if the image will still be stuck with you. I don't know, but that's how I was like okay with it because again, we were in that village when the street light was almost non-existent
Oh
in
God.
town. So, and it was
Right.
screening, outdoor screening, and so that's how I was doing it. It was really lovely. Like I still have one image with the clown that some crazy shit happened to the clown, and it's still funny because again, everybody was laughing, but if the context was different, I think it's like a whole umbrella gets into him and some parts of him come out. It's like it's
Oh
crazy.
my God.
I'm not telling you more than that, but I think when I think about it, I'm like, that's such a cool thing, which I would have if I was by myself. But I did have these, like, I was a student and I would just do, I would like, let me see all of the exorcist movies. And I was like watching every night or like things like that. Let me see, like, yeah,
By yourself?
I was in the dorm, yeah, by myself. Like, I
Oh God.
was back then when I was, I don't care. I don't know. Yeah. So I was like that. I'm not as brave as I was back then, but yeah, I still love this so much. So we're getting close to the end. So I want to challenge you because when I asked you about ghosts, you were saying that you don't perceive it as in we're not just gonna get lost. So I'm gonna ask you, and you tell me how you feel about that. But what if, I'm just here to play devil's advocate, what if being a ghost is the final thing? And I know a lot of people are saying like no, because usually they are lost souls, and until they have some things to solve, and then the purgatory. But that's, what if that's it? That's the thing. That's the final destination, is to be a ghost, to be a
That
spirit.
be and to me, I mean, who am I to say no to that? That would be quite an interesting idea that you just live in this human body for a little bit, and then for the rest, you kind of have.
But that's the point. You were a spirit before, and then you just are borrowing this body for a little bit, and then you
Yeah,
go back in being a spirit.
yeah, but would you have consciousness then? Because you didn't have it before, so would you kind of like
Yeah,
have
that's a good
this
point.
identity? Because I mean, in Buddhism, they believe that yeah, for 49 days at most, you stay in this transitional state, and then you reincarnate again. You get
Yeah.
another body. So yeah, you are this like consciousness, soul, whatever it is, and then you just
Hmm.
get into another body, may it be human or animal or whatever else, and then you just have these cycles. But I don't know what to think about reincarnation.
So we don't know where we stand with that. So
Yeah, but of
let's
course
let's
that's a
see if you
different
change your mind in a few years. Let's see what other depending on how much more you get into whatever you're learning and stuff like that. Let's see if you change your mind meanwhile. So the last question that I want to ask you: have you ever heard about goosebumps?
the magazine series or whatever it
Ye-
was. Hmm.
when have you heard of it?
Not not a very long time ago, but probably when I was in like university or after. So in my adult life.
Because I've heard of goosebumps last year for
Okay.
the ever in my entire life. When, remember that I used to have you I think you used to have two masterclass, like subscription to
Yeah. Yeah,
masterclass.
yeah,
I had,
yeah,
I had subscription to masterclass for like a year. And since I was interested in doing some masterclasses for writing, I was taking all of the writing
yeah.
people
Hmm.
that were talking about. And so out of nowhere, I was like, okay, let me see this dude. He seemed like he knows what he's talking about. Little did I know, first and foremost, I used to watch Star Trek growing up. So little did I know that that was LeForge. Hello!
Oh,
And he's the creator of Goosebumps, right?
I had no idea actually.
So LeForge wrote Goosebumps. Um, I am so upset that somehow it never got to me, because I would have eaten these books. I
Really?
was I was loving as a kid these kind of stories. I was loving legends. My dad was suggesting me some books that were with some sort of aliens and things like that. I would have eaten these books on bread, as we say in
When
Romania.
did Goosebumps start
From the
actually?
90s, I think.
Okay.
Early 90s. Yeah.
It
So,
Oh, there's also a film,
yeah,
a Disney animation. Okay.
yes.
I had no
Um
idea.
so I just wanted to tell you that
Oh, it wasn't
maybe,
magazine, it was like a novel series. Okay.
yeah,
I thought it was like magazine, but it was, yeah, because
but
I thought it was short stories.
so I wanted to say that that's probably an in, because it's horror books but for children. So
Okay. Yeah.
obviously they
I
can't be too
think I could handle
spooky.
that.
They can't be too spooky, but there is a bit of a like, what's about to happen, kind of a thing. So
I
maybe
think
that
I
would
can
have been an
handle
in for you.
it. Thank you. Yeah, I think I can do children's horror. Maybe.
So I'm very upset that I didn't know about it until, and then when I was telling my husband, he was like, "What? You didn't know this?" Because I was like, "Oh, Brad, have you ever heard of this?" And he's like, "Duh, everybody."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Nope, didn't reach Romania, at least not my household." I don't
Yeah.
know about the rest, but did not reach. Nope, that didn't happen.
It did reach Romania, but yeah, like I said, in my adult life, I heard about it. I mean, Romania was in the dark ages for a
I
while.
mean, I can't because a lot of people are saying like millennials are this and Gen X is that and Gen Z is this and blah, blah, blah. They always have this thing. And I
Hmm.
said, technically, according to the year that I was born in, I'm a millennial. But because of how Romania was so much in the back, I relate more to Gen X because
I
the things
guess
that came
so,
to us,
yeah.
like when my husband, like we are 3 years apart. So it wouldn't make us such a difference. But when my husband is telling me things that he experienced when he was in like middle school, and I experienced that when I was in high school,
Yeah.
that's the next. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it's true because yeah, Romania, like we were under communism for a long
yeah.
time, and then even though
So
we were born right around the revolution, it took some years for Romania to catch up and open up to the world and to pop culture, especially. God,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Like a lot of pop culture was lost on us. Alrighty, so before we say goodbye, I have to say that maybe if people are gonna go on YouTube and it's your name, Andrea Papandorca, on YouTube,
Mhm.
and they might, maybe, hopefully, see some footage or shorts or whatever. I don't know what you want to create about the day that we just mentioned.
That would be nice. I really hope I can get the weather to be good so I can record something because it really does look special, especially right around sunset with the lights, the candles lit up. I think it looks very, very pretty.
And as of for me, Alina Igrad, I do have like this is the same Halloween videos that I already posted last year and the year before. I am behind with my shorts from my trips. Like always, I'm very behind. Hopefully, I'm gonna catch up. But yeah, so check us both our profiles or accounts on YouTube. And do you have anything else to add, Andra?
Um, well, happy, happy whatever you're celebrating to everyone because it feels like somehow somewhere in the world people are relating to because it's getting darker and because it's fall and because days are getting shorter, everybody in the world has felt the need to celebrate with more light somehow, be it Halloween or Diwali or the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, whatever. um I hope everybody gets a bit more light in the darker days to come.
Especially since this podcast is going to be published literally one day before election day in United States. So God help us all, or God, some sort of entity.
Yeah, good luck with those.
Freddy from the Elm Street, help us.
Yeah, nice one.
One, two. Don't make me sing to you. Freddy's coming for you.
It doesn't actually touch me at all because I haven't watched that part. I know that there's some song in it, but because I'm like, you know what? My experience with that was just watching the trailer. So,
Oh boy. Okay, and obviously, like always, 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 thank you, Andra, for joining me. And let's see what we're gonna talk about it. Maybe we're gonna talk about National Day next time.
yeah, man, looking forward to
Romanian National
the
Day. You know
Romanian
what?
National Day.
Let me put the which, by the way, people, I said this before. It's not Independence Day for Romania. Said this before. I'm gonna say it forever. We are not independent. We weren't independent of anyone. We were uniting some regions. More of that maybe next time. This concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening and for reviewing Traveling Inside Out. If you want to get in touch with me, send an email to podcast@alinaigrad.com. And remember, your outer journey begins with inner work. Until next time.